Breaking news. China is enhancing its ability to operate in the gray area in order to catch up to Russia. The Chinese government's efforts to spread disinformation go well beyond the use of troll farms and online bot armies to spread false information on social media. Unlike the United States and its allies, the West's adversaries, such as China and Russia, have no trouble operating in the gray zone, competition between peacetime and war. Beijing is following Russia's lead by employing non-kinetic means to advance its interests vis-a-vis its rivals. These asymmetric means include offensive cyber operations and disinformation campaigns that aim to press the advantage without evoking a counterattack from Russia's adversaries. Microsoft revealed last week that it had discovered a Chinese cyberattack called Volt Typhoon, whose goal was to disrupt communications between the United States and Asia in the event of a future crisis. With a high degree of certainty, Western intelligence agencies have concluded that the hacking campaign is supported by the Chinese government and carried out by elite hacking units within the Chinese military. China employs a wide variety of gray zone tactics to further its national interests. These include non-military endeavors in the geopolitical, economic, and information spheres. These strategies can be put into action on a global, bilateral, or local scale in the target countries, either directly or through proxies and clients. Many nations are turning to cyberattacks as a weapon because of the anonymity and difficulty in attributing or determining responsibility that are hallmarks of gray zone operations, the cyber equivalent of little green men. Chinese cyberattacks are akin to a weapons test in that they are an initial probe to gauge the resilience of their targets. The recipient's reaction is factored into future strategies. While cyberattacks are nothing new, an examination of China's actions over the past few years reveals a clear indication that the country is trying to replicate Russia's playbook against the West by acting on the periphery of formal conflict and hiding its true intentions. Speaking for the Chinese government, Foreign Ministry spokesman Mao Ning said, "Apparently, this has been a collective disinformation campaign launched by the U.S. through the Five Eyes to serve its geopolitical agenda," implying that the United States was behind the hacking campaign. It's common knowledge that the Five Eyes is the largest intelligence alliance in the world, and that the NSA is the largest hacking organization. As has been the case after high-profile cases of economic espionage, incidents of hacking efforts against U.S. vaccine production during the pandemic, and most recently the spy balloon scandal that brought tensions between China and the U.S. to the forefront, the denial came as no surprise. While in Moscow in the middle of March, Chinese President Xi Jinping signed a new agreement with his Russian counterpart that promised to deepen the strategic partnership between Moscow and Beijing, just one day after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin. To add insult to injury, China has taken a side in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, supporting the Kremlin's disinformation campaigns and promoting false Russian narratives about the war, despite Western fears to the contrary. As a result of Twitter's recent changes, state-backed propaganda and blatant falsehoods pushed by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, and Kremlin, respectively, are receiving significantly more views than before. The Russian embassy in Paris denied any war crimes had taken place in Bucharest, and the Chinese embassy in France repeatedly retweeted this denial. Have fun reading. To gain complete access, please click here. For only $5 per month. China is trying to influence public opinion in favor of Moscow and against Kyiv by amplifying Russian disinformation. The Kremlin's claim that there are American biolabs on Ukrainian soil is one of the most damning lies it has spread. To a large segment of the international community, this claim represents an effort to prove that the United States secretly maintains a biological weapons program in Europe. The Chinese government has also spread false information about the spread of the COVID-19 virus, the success of Western vaccines, and the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang on a regular basis. A special envoy for the United States claims that China has spent billions of dollars spreading false information about Ukraine. Troll farms and online bot armies recycling conspiracy theories on social media are just the beginning of Chinese disinformation efforts. Chinese government spokespeople have been used to spread these falsehoods. Last year, Zhao Lijian, a former spokesperson for China's foreign ministry, said, "This Russian military operation has uncovered the secret of the U.S. labs in Ukraine, and this is not something that can be dealt with in a perfunctory manner." More than just wolf warrior diplomacy, Lijian's statement is an outright fabrication spread without any evidence to back it up in order to shift attention away from Russia. Global Times, a state-backed English-language publication in China, joined other Chinese media in spreading anti-American propaganda in the immediate aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The publication portrayed the United States as a warmonger and the European Union as stooges and puppets of the United States. Beijing's censorship of anti-Russian voices within China and promotion of pro-Russian conversations online were both components of its disinformation campaign. China promotes its position on climate change and highlights diplomatic successes in the Middle East in an effort to portray itself as a responsible international actor, but the fact remains that it openly supports Russian disinformation. Due to its simplistic, either-or worldview, the West has been caught off guard by China's increased disinformation and cyber activities. After 20 years of fighting the global war on terrorism, the United States and many of its Western allies are only just beginning to understand how the nature of warfare has changed. Thinking about how to deter adversaries in the gray area is even trickier because it requires pinpointing specific attackers and sending them messages about the future consequences of their actions. Taiwan is the end goal of China's gray zone strategy. China has used similar strategies against other countries in the region and beyond, including geopolitical rivals like the United States, as described above. The CCP is very good at learning from experience and watching how its enemies fight and react in different scenarios. Although many commentators have focused on the Russian military's actions in the ongoing conflict between Kiev and Moscow, one storyline that has received less attention is how Beijing has improved upon Moscow's gray zone approach. As the learning curve for new technologies flattens, cyberattacks and disinformation campaigns will become more complex.